Alright guys, well, today we're going to do a little review of my 2013 Mv Agusta F4. Now, I've had this bike for about a year and a half now, and gonna break down, you know, just like the pros and cons of owning this type of bike and what you can expect from an owner's perspective. Like, I know there's been a lot of skepticism about Italian bikes over the years, you know, as far as you know, reliability and being super expensive to maintain, so we're gonna address all that in this video right here. So let's hurry up and get on the road real quick, do a little cold start. Jesus. We close the garage real quick before the wife gets mad. Now, as you guys can see, I'm not letting this bike fully warm up before I take it out, and that's actually on purpose. So, you know, I wanted to make sure I did everything right when I got this bike, to the point to where I literally read like as much of the manual as I could. So with this bike in particular, like, it says that it's very bad for it to just sit and idle. So I make sure that I let it, you know, do its cold start thing, and then after the cold start's over, I typically hop up on it and, you know, just take it easy on the bike, you know what I'm saying, and let it warm up properly, let everything, you know, warm up. Because the last thing you want to do, man, is get hot spots in the engine. And what I mean by that is, like, when you let something just sit there and idle, like, one spot's going to get hotter than the other. So, you know, that causes issues, because if something's hot and something else is cold, you know, things are going to break. And last thing you want to do is have to replace stuff simply because you didn't let something warm up for a couple minutes. But as far as ownership, man, I really like this bike, man. Like, I'm one of those people that really does their research when they get into bikes, because, you know, especially stepping to the Italian side that has, like I said, so much, you know, bad juju around it. Like, oh, they're overpriced and they break all the time, they overheat all the time, like, I want to say I did my research on this bike probably for a good year or two before I actually, like, bought it. And mainly because, you know, I just didn't have the funds to buy it. It was a dream bike. but I got everything together. You know, obviously I have it now, but you know, like I said, it's a great bike. Like, you know, I go with the whole experience something before you judge it. I mean, as you guys know, I have a Series 2 RX-8 and I absolutely love it, man. Like, there's so much bad juju around RX-8s, it's ridiculous. Like, if you think it's bad with Italian bikes, just go to the RX-8 community. Like, it's really fucking toxic, you know, because people talk so much shit about them, but they're great cars. Like, if you take care of them, just like anything else, they're great cars. They treat you right. And yes, there's some things you have to, you know, stay on top of your maintenance, just like anything else. So basically, if you just do what the fuck you're supposed to do to take care of something, then you'll be fine. And that's what I tell people all the time. Like, when they ask me about how this bike is, like, take care of it, it'll take care of you. And of course, there are some things that you know should probably be worried about. You know what I'm saying? So like, this bike is a 2013, and the 2013 and 14 have, like, I'll just list off the issues. The issues with the 2013s and 14s right off the bat is just the quick shifter. So it has a quick shifter and an auto blipper, and the auto blipper works perfectly fine, but the upshift quick shifter has a tendency to stop working and needs to be reprogrammed. Or what you can do is just switch it out altogether, or upgrade it to the EAS 2.0, which comes on the 2015 and later F4s. Now, I've considered doing that, but since I'm going to flash this bike, I'm just going to reprogram it. And if I have issues from there, which most people said that they haven't had issues with it after that, after like reprogramming it, they haven't had issues. So I'm just going to end up doing that. If I have an issue after that, then yeah, I'll go ahead and I'll just, you know, switch it out after that. But until it gets to that point, because I mean, it doesn't cost me anything to reprogram it besides, you know, the flash kit that I'm already going to buy. So if I can do that and, you know, get out of having to, you know, drop cash for a new quick shifter, I'm just going to do that. Because people say, like, this quick shifter and auto blipper is actually amazing when it works. It is very, very smooth, especially the auto blip. The auto blip is amazing. You know, I've ridden other bikes like the R1 that has the quick shift and auto blip, and this is a 2013 and it's just as smooth as my buddy's 2016 R1. So, you know, that says a lot, because this is first gen technology for this bike. Like, 2013 was the first year that they introduced the electronics package for these bikes. So for it to be that smooth is crazy. Like, it still feels smooth in 2021. So that says a lot about, you know, how MV is really, you know, trying to basically like catch up and, you know, like shorten the gap between them and the competition. Aside from the quick shifter, that's pretty much it as far as like model specific. Now we can get into the whole now we can get into, you know, just the, I guess I'd say the cons of having a bike like this. And some of these are kind of subjective, because, you know, like, one of them is, you know, this bike gets a lot of attention. You know, like, everywhere I go, there's always somebody that asks me about it, or, you know, wants to know, like, you know, what it is, things like that. So I mean, you're always gonna get questions like, what is that? And just get used to people asking if it's if you're riding a Ducati. Back to the bike. So yeah, if you don't like attention, man, don't get this bike. Like, don't get this or any Italian bike, really, because people are always going to ask you what it is, or they're always going to have 1,000,001 questions about it. So but yeah, like, only other really bad thing about these is, like, yes, like what I said earlier about the overheating, that's definitely a thing. Like, these bikes typically run off of engine ice anyway, so you don't typically have to worry about them like overheating like super fast. But they definitely overheat, like, well, they definitely get hotter than Japanese bikes. Like right now, I'm already like getting hot, and it's because the way that the impeller on the water pump is, it's too shallow, so it doesn't push the coolant around like it's supposed to until around like 4.5–5 grand. So unless you're at 4.5–5 grand, you're gonna get hot. But the way to counteract that is you can get the Jet Prime upgraded water pump from hsbk.com, and you can get the Samco silicone hoses, which is what I'm going to do for this. So, you know, stay tuned for that. That'll be coming to the channel pretty soon in the next, like, maybe like month, 2 months. It all depends on how everything goes. But that's something you can do. And also, when you flash the ECU, you can go ahead and change the fan temp kick on and have it come on, like, you know, 10–15 degrees sooner, and that'll negate, you know, all your cooling issues that you have. I mean, if you got the money for it, man, you can even get the upgraded SBK radiator system that's on hsbk.com, man. And I mean, it's expensive as hell. I think it's like, I want to say like between 2 and 3 grand. So it is definitely not cheap by any means, and I'm definitely not buying it. Like, maybe if I was like, it was a dedicated track bike, maybe I would spend the money there. But I definitely can't recommend any, you know, person that's just getting into this bike to, you know, oh, like, definitely buy this. Like, no, definitely buy the water pump and the hoses, but aside from that, no. Like no, just don't waste your money on, well, I'm not gonna say waste your money, because everyone said that it does help. So I'm gonna say, well, I'll say don't waste your money on something you don't need to. Like, why spend 3 grand when you can spend 800 bucks on the water pump, the hoses, and some engine ice, and be set. And like I said, just whenever you get the bike flash, just be like, hey man, turn the fucking temp down a little bit, like the temp turn on down a little bit, and then you're good. You don't have anything to worry about cooling wise. Now another con about these bikes is the electrical system is pretty sensitive, man. So I've heard different, like, back and forth between, you know, washing these bikes. Some people are like, oh, I wash it all the time, never have issues. But I definitely didn't have that experience. As soon as I started washing this bike, I had issues, because basically, like, the connectors on these bikes are pretty exposed, so water can get in them pretty easily, and they're only water resistant. So, you know, washing a bike, even if you just use a little bit of water, which I've tried doing multiple times, like, the bike will still not want to start until everything's dried up and cleared out and you blow everything out. So what I would recommend is get some Honda polish, or really just any type of like car wash in a bottle that's pH balanced, like from Chemical Guys, and use that to clean it, because then you're not gonna have to worry about any of those issues. So just to kind of, you know, alleviate the headache, just do not wash the bike and just basically dry wash it. Now another thing I will say is you should definitely look at some rear sets, because the stock ones, they're not horrible, but I mean they are really like small. Like, yeah, like I don't know if you guys can see that, but yeah, they're pretty small. So they work great, don't get me wrong. In the corners, they are perfect. I love them in the corners, but just like on the highway, you know, they're not the greatest. So if you want something a little bit more comfortable, like I'm a size like 10.5, so you know, if you're around that size, like you don't have to worry about it too much. But if you're like a bigger footed guy, like size 11, 12, like I would definitely recommend getting some new rear sets. And you can pick up some really nice ones from Bellissimoto. Like Bellissimoto is pretty much going to be Bellissimoto, HSBK. They're going to be like your best friends when it comes to, you know, this bike. They've from what I've seen, they pretty much have like the most stuff. And also my GP Racing also has a fuck ton of stuff for MVs as well. Well, I'm not gonna say a fuck ton, like as far as like MV support, they have the best selections, I'll put it that way. Because, you know, when you get this bike, like you're a part of a very special group of people. Like not everyone has these, you know. You have to think, like this is like owning like a rare, like, you know, supercar basically. That's basically what you're buying into. It's a boutique brand, so finding support as far as like certain parts, like getting certain things done and all that, like you can get, you know, the basic stuff that people do, you know, exhaust. Oh, what's up, guy? Exhaust, air filter, you know, tune, all that. But like it's not, you kind of have to find it yourself. It's not like, you know, typing in, you know, Gixxer aftermarket parts and then you get 1,000,001 websites. Like you have to kind of like look around and find the websites that fit you, you know, that have the stuff that you want. It's more like, basically like when you get a bike like this, it's more on you. And that's been my experience with it. So just keep that in mind. Like you're gonna have to search a little bit, do your homework when it comes to, one, purchasing this bike, and two, finding parts for it. If you plan on keeping this bike like stock, like it's gonna get hot. So if you're gonna keep it stock, definitely do all the cooling mods first. Like do all the cooling mods first before, you know, you do any aesthetic mods, because you're gonna need it. Now if you're like me and you can't leave stuff alone and you're gonna, you know, do what you want to do, then I ended up buying, I think the exhaust, yeah, the exhaust was actually my first purchase that I did with the bike. It was actually it was the exhaust, fender eliminator, and the LED tail light, because I bought them all at the same time. So yeah, I bought all of them at the same time. But I would highly recommend doing all the cooling mods first, man. Because like I haven't been in California that long, so we're coming up on the summertime. Like it just started, you know, June. So hopefully it doesn't get too crazy before I can throw these cooling mods on. But I mean, hey, if that happens, that's what I have the Gixxer for, you know. I'll just take it. I'll just switch over to a Gixxer. That was a big pop. I mean, shit, that's like, aside from, you know, what I mentioned about cooling mods and, you know, the attention aspect, and the electronics with the, you know, whole water situation. The only other bad thing really is just finding dealers. Like finding dealers. Well, I guess I'll tie dealers and parts together. So dealers and parts are kind of like the next big thing with these, because everyone hears that, they're like, oh, it's impossible to get parts for Italian bikes. I've been on both sides of it. So me personally, the first time I ordered parts was for my service. Ordering the parts for my service did take a while, but keep in mind, I bought this bike at the end of 2019, so just before COVID hit, and it went to service in 2020 during COVID. So it went into service, I want to say it was like right around summertime, I believe. So that right there was an issue. Then COVID and trying to get parts over here, and then on top of that, MV switching ownership. But it only took a month because they were sending stuff out in batches. So it took a month for all the parts to get here. And then on the flip side of that, I actually had to get another part. I actually had to buy this side, well, I didn't have to buy it, but this side fan right here actually flew off when I was test riding the bike after service, and the mechanic didn't put it on right, because there's a certain way you have to do it, and he didn't do it right. And I guess he was a new guy or something, but he just didn't do it right, and it flew off during the test ride and shattered. Like, you know, some car ran it over behind me, so it was pretty much done. And I ended up getting that, let's see, I want to say in total to go from Italy to the dealership to my house was 2 weeks. So that's not bad at all, considering that it was out of stock as well. So they had to make it, paint it, and ship it out and get it to me, and it only took 2 weeks. So not bad at all. So, you know what I'm saying, I'm not gonna hold that, you know, against them, because 2 weeks wasn't that long. You know, and I really wasn't riding the bike that much during that time because I was busy with work anyway, so it kind of worked out. But yeah. And then back to the dealer aspect, please guys, make sure you guys have a a good dealer around you. Like, don't be like, oh, I have one dealer by me or whatever, I'm gonna go get one. Like, make sure that dealer checks out. Call them, make sure they're comfortable doing the service, because, you know, you can go to a dealer or whatever, and they'll be like, yeah, like, we work on MVs, but you need to ask them if they do the actual major service. Because I talked to a lot of people, like a lot of dealers, when I was trying to get my service done, and there was dealers that were like, oh yeah, we'll do basic maintenance, but we won't do the actual valve adjustment. So just make sure that you guys do that. Make sure you guys talk to the dealer, and make sure they're a reputable dealer. Like, join the forums and the pages, because that has been my best friend since I've owned this bike. Like, you will find more stuff about this bike in those groups than you will anywhere else. And like I said, everyone is super nice and welcoming. Like, even if you don't have the bike yet, like, let's say you just joined the page just to join it, like you're interested in the Mv Agusta, they will let you know everything that you need to know. Like, there was so much stuff I didn't know about these bikes before I even got one, because originally the F4 was the reason I even considered getting an MV. I was gonna pick up the older one, but then I saw the F3 800 and I fell in love with it. Now that is actually the F3 is the only like sport bike, like no shit, like sport bike that they offer now. The F4 is discontinued since like 2019, but I wanted to get the F3, but the only issue with the F3 is, especially the earlier ones, they had a lot of issues with the motor. They had a lot of issues with the motor itself and the sprag clutch. So if you guys are interested in those, just be mindful. Like I said, join the page. They will tell you anything you need to know. They'll tell you everything. So like I said, just keep that in mind. Like, they're not gonna be, it's not like the Japanese pages where there's a lot of trolls on there. They're like, you know, messing with you and stuff. Like, they'll keep it honest with you. And you know, I'm not gonna lie, a lot of the guys that have these bikes are a little on the older side, which is to be expected, because like I said, these are more like boutique brands. So, you know, this is like the equivalent of, you know, a Ferrari or a Lamborghini. Typically, older gentlemen have them. So, you know, when you go on the page or whatever, just, you know, express like you're interested, or, you know, you just bought one and you have more questions. Like, they're not gonna, you know, be a-holes about it. They're very welcoming community. Now, let's get on to the last and final con, and that's the actual maintenance. I would be lying to you guys to say that maintenance on this bike is cheap. It isn't cheap. But to be fair, maintenance isn't cheap on any bike that you get, really. I got quoted $800 to $1,200 bucks for the maintenance, for the big maintenance, for the big service. And I ended up needing some extra parts, you know, so I spent about $1,700 bucks, you know, because my battery needed to be replaced, and there's a couple other things that need to be replaced that I can't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, basically like the typical service is anywhere from $800 to $1,200 bucks, which you know, it seems like a lot. I'm not gonna lie, it seems like a lot for maintenance, but it's not really. It really isn't that bad, especially if this is going to be like just a second bike. Like, you know, you want a nice bike to just, you know, ride around on, customize. Like, this is a perfect second bike, without a doubt. Like, the maintenance is, I'd want to say, I have to double check, but the maintenance is about every 7,600, every about 14,000 miles or so. That's when the big maintenance service is. So in between that, you're only doing typical oil change, you know, spark plugs when they need to be done. So if you think about it, it really isn't that bad at all. Like, you pay that and then you ride it, like, especially since it's going to be a second bike, then it's not that bad at all. Now, if this is your main bike, like for me, it's pretty much my main bike, that can be a little costly. But yeah, ever since I got this bike back, like, I haven't really I haven't put like crazy miles on it or anything. So I mean, really, like I said, it's all up to you on like how much you're gonna ride it. Being more of like the daily, you know, the daily motorcycle, then yeah, it's gonna cost you a little bit more over the ownership time. But I would tell you right now, it is definitely worth it. Like, I really didn't think that it was ever gonna be worth it, because I was just like, you know, like, it's a lot of money. Like, why would I spend that much money? But once you actually ride the bike, like, you just, like, it just changes your mind completely. Because I'm very picky when it comes to that. Like, I never wanted to buy an Italian bike because of that, because I've heard the horror stories, and I was just like, I'm not doing that. I'm not putting myself through that, yada yada yada. And here I am, and it's nowhere near as bad as people made it seem. Like, I've had so much fun with this bike that I don't mind paying for it, you know. Whoop, U-turn. And that right there is what gets you in trouble. It is a very, very fun bike. Like I said, it is definitely worth it. Like, you have to think, this bike, they said the specs for this bike are 195 bhp with 84 foot-pounds of torque. You know, so real world numbers is probably like around 180, 185, and then about probably 75 to 80 foot-pounds of torque. Now, as you can see, once it hits the power band at right around like 6, 7, that's when the secondaries kick in, and that's when it gets a little fun. So yeah, you definitely have to be careful with this bike. Whew. Well, let's see how much it's gonna cost to fill up this time. Well, guys, it took almost 16 bucks, man, to fill this thing up. That's tragic. Tragic to say the least. Alright, now that we filled up, back to the good about this bike. Like I said, it is definitely worth it performance wise. You have these big Brembos up front, you have Marchesani forks, you have this beautiful LCD display, and this nice blue. And once again, like the electronics package is definitely worth it, because you have to think, for a 2013 you get a pit limiter, lap timer, you get different riding modes and a custom riding mode, and then you also get traction control. And if you go for the RR or the R version, you can actually get ABS as well. So I mean, you get a lot, and when it comes to the maps and customizing them, it's actually pretty damn easy. You can adjust the max engine braking, max engine torque. You can adjust the throttle sensitivity as well. So you get a lot of customizable shit. Like I said, I think this bike is perfect if, you know, you're in the market to upgrade, but you know, you don't want, you know, something that has a bunch of technology on it. Like, this bike typically just gives you like what you need. Like, you know, if you were to, you know, go for like a track day, like this is definitely a bike you would want to take, because that's what it was made for. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's made to, you know, hit the track, have fun, and just be a raw, untamed beast. And that's exactly what this bike is. But I mean, as far as I've seen, everyone typically loves this damn bike. Like, I haven't seen too many people complain about it. I haven't seen too many people say like, I'd never buy another F4, And like I said, I've been on the forums for well over 2 years, and I've never heard anyone say that. In fact, everyone loves this and its brother, the Brutale. Like, this and the Brutale have the exact same engine, they're just obviously tuned different. And I've never seen somebody say that they would never buy another one. I've heard people say they never buy another MV because of, you know, other reasons, like, you know, older issues with, you know, how MV was doing business. But as of right now, I still haven't heard anyone say I'd never buy another F4 or Brutale. So, like I said, I would definitely recommend this bike, because it's such a fun bike, and you have to ride it to understand. Like, my buddy is RSV4 and he still wants to get this bike because I let him ride it like a couple times, and we were actually talking about it last night. He was like, yeah man, I still want to get an MV because there's just something about him, like, it's something you just can't put your finger on. It's just something so special. And I'm not saying that to, you know, dick ride them or anything, but whatever they do over there in Italy, man, hey man, it's working, because like I said, I'm considering buying a brand new Mv F4 whenever they release it. And that says a lot, because I never ever buy anything new.
Alright guys, so that's going to be pretty much it for the review. Like I said, the main takeaways are: make sure the electrical system is good and squared away. Make sure that, you know, it's charging the battery correctly and stuff, because like I said, that's one of the issues with these bikes. It's just the electrical system is a little weak. Nothing too crazy, you know, about the same as it is on some of the Jap bikes. And then obviously cooling. Make sure you guys keep these bikes cool, man. Like, that is the biggest thing that I can preach to you, is make sure that you do everything that has to do with cooling. And then pretty much aside from that, the only other thing you really have to worry about is the quick shifter issue, which, like I said, you can fix the last two problems or whatever relatively easy, especially with, like I said, doing the ECU flash. You can turn the fan kick on temp down. That way it's, you know, you can turn it down like 15 degrees or so. That way it kicks on a lot sooner. And then, like I said, make sure you guys get the hoses and the water pump. Like, that's what's really gonna help you. That's what I'm literally waiting to get for this bike now. So in the next video, we're actually gonna be installing the air filter. I got a MWR air filter for this bike. It's the high efficiency one, so it's gonna give me as much air as possible for street use without, you know, damaging the engine or anything. But yeah, like I said, if you guys like this video, let me know. I'll start doing more moto vlogs. Like I said, I still have to do a review on my Gixxer, but as for right now, like I said, this is my main bike, and that bike still has some issues to be sorted. And in the review for that, we'll get into all the details and all the issues I've had with that bike. So yeah, once again, thanks again, guys. I really appreciate it. Like, comment, subscribe. You know, comment down below what are your thoughts, you know, on Mv Agusta. What's your thoughts on the F4 in general? And, you know, would you guys buy one? Like, you know, I haven't seen too many reviews of this bike from like actual owners, you know what I'm saying? So let me know, like, after watching this, do you feel like more comfortable with the brand? You know, because like I said, Italians get that horrible stigma of unreliability and just being, you know, overpriced and breaking down all the time. So let me know if, you know, this video changed your guys' mind or not.